In December 23, 1959, Charles Anderson Berry, better known as Chuck Berry, was handcuffed and taken in. His crime? Violating the White Slave Traffic Act of 1910. Controversy arose from the enforcement of the Traffic Act, but America was never made aware of the true conspiracy behind the events of his arrest. Chuck Berry was relaxing from his most recent tour, frequenting strip clubs with his friends and bandmates. He decided to stop at a local bar, where he met a young patron he instantly became infatuated with. The patron's name was Janice Escalante, and after hours of flirting, Berry was hesitant before revealing that he was, in fact, famous. In an ironic twist, Janice did not reveal she was 14 years old, or a prostitute, in an effort to build a relationship. Here is a dramatization of the conversation between Chuck Berry and Janice. For legal reasons, Berry has been edited out.
Hi, can I get a ride with you to the concert? So you guys like Chuck Berry too, huh? Which of his songs do you like? Really? I love them all too. Chuck Berry, really? I've heard your music but never seen your picture or film of you. Why didn't you tell me right away that you were Chuck Berry? What, you expect everybody to instantly recognize you? That's selfish. What? Oh, sure, I'll hang with you. We can have some fun.
Berry decided to offer her legitimate employment as a hat check girl at his nightclub, Berry's Club Bandstand, in St. Louis, Missouri. She accepted and traveled with the band for the rest of the tour. According to Chuck Berry, Janice was very adamant in pursuing a sexual relationship, but that he himself wanted to wait for a more intimate setting, as his busy schedule did not allocate enough time for his personal use. That time never arrived, as he was away on another tour and Janice was busy checking hats at his club. A few weeks later, he kept receiving calls that Janice stopped showing up for work entirely. To make matters worse, the local police had been showing up at his club demanding to speak to him regarding a teenage employee of his who had been arrested for prostitution at a downtown hotel. This presented a unique opportunity to discredit and slander rock and roll as a genre in a hostile point of time in history. This was used by none other than J. Edgar Hoover.
On September 12, 1959, J. Edgar Hoover was walking out of a meeting with the board of directors of the FBI. While walking back to his office, he heard music coming from another office. When upon entering this office, J. Edgar Hoover noticed 3 FBI agents and 1 secretary standing around a record player. The song that he heard was Sweet Little 16. Right off the bat, J. Edgar Hoover hated the song. He told the 3 agents to get back to work and to never play this music in this building again. Although J. Edgar Hoover did ask one question: "Who's playing this trash?" And one agent replied, "Chuck Berry." Later that day, J. Edgar Hoover called his secretary into the room. He told her to find everything she could about this Chuck Berry. "I want to know who he knows, where he lives, and what he does on his spare time. And I want this information on my desk by the end of the week." 3 weeks after Chuck Berry fired Janine Norrie Escalante from his nightclub in St. Louis, Missouri, she went to the St. Louis Police Department. She told them that Chuck Berry sexually abused her and that other underage women were working at his nightclub. The desk sergeant told her to file a police report and then come back to her when she was done. Being an irrational 14-year-old, she began to scream and shout at the desk sergeant. When an old man in his 60s walked up to her and said, "Ma'am, I think I can help you. My name is J. Edgar Hoover. I work for the FBI." Over the next few days, J. Edgar Hoover found out Janine Norrie Escalante was not an American citizen, and due to the racial factor that she was a Mexican, he began to think that no one would care. But since J. Edgar Hoover could not find anything else on Chuck Berry, he decided to use the Mann Act against Chuck Berry. The White Slave Traffic Act, or better known as the Mann Act, which was originally formed to prohibit white slavery and the interstate transportation of females for immoral purposes. After a few days of J. Edgar Hoover coaching Janine Norrie Escalante, she was finally ready to file her police report. 2 days after, the St. Louis Police Department arrested Chuck Berry for violating the Mann Act.
Thanks to the efforts of J. Edgar Hoover, Chuck Berry was arrested and rock and roll was facing a turbulent time, but the conspiracy continued on through Chuck Berry's court case. Chuck Berry faced a great legal battle for his freedom, all of it marred by the meddling of Hoover. The first odd occurrence was the jury itself. Chuck Berry faced a jury consisting of all white men and an overtly racist judge. In that point of time, racism was rampant, and having the jury be white was an exercise in futility for his defense. His second obstacle was the judge presiding over the case. The judge made no effort to conceal his dislike of African Americans, and throughout the case would constantly belittle and spout racial profanity to the amusement and acceptance of the jury. Berry understood this was a lost cause. He was convicted on March 16, 1960, and sentenced to 5 years imprisonment and a $5,000 fine. Due to the nature of his trial, Chuck Berry petitioned and was granted a retrial. Unfortunately, he was convicted again in March of 1961 for a smaller term of 2 years. Later on, the Mann Act received a change in its wording, further solidifying the government's efforts to erase any evidence of wrongdoing. But the damage had been done. Berry never recovered from his prison sentence, his last single being the 1972 My Ding-a-Ling, a salute to teenage masturbation. His career was over. J. Edgar Hoover succeeded in dismantling rock and roll's foundation and plummeting its popularity into a state of decay, and to this day, it has yet to recover.